Hi crafty friends, welcome back to Rotary Journal. I'm Alice. In the last week's video, I shared my new personal journals. One of them, I made the bigger one from an old planner cover. I hardly used it, but it was a dated planner, so I couldn't use it later when it was too late. So I just cut out the inside pages and kept the cover because I like the red color and most of all I love the stitches around the edges. So I thought I'm gonna share how I make a journal out of an old hardcover planner in case you have a pretty hardcover planner or just a book that you wanna recycle like me. It's very easy. It is even easier than using a cereal box. So let's get started. So this is the cover we are gonna recycle today. You can see I cut out the inside pages. This is the paper I want for the cover. It is from Simple Life collection by Jan Hadfield. I thought the vintage botanical sketch goes well with the red color of the cover. I tried inking the back cover to get an old and distressed look. You can see the difference with the front. I'm gonna do the rest of the cover now. I use Distress Oxide ink because oxide ink is more opaque. And I use a vintage watercolor. I'm adding ink from the outside to the inside in circular motion to prevent a trace of the blending tool. But oxide ink is much more forgiving than usual distress ink, so you don't really need to worry about it that much. So I am done inking the cover. Now I'm gonna ink up the cover paper. This time I'm using the same color, vintage photo, but usual distress ink because it gives more transparent look. So I added ink on the edges of the cover directly from the pad because the side of paper was white, and now I'm using the blending tool. I used double-sided tape at the back of the paper, then added glue stick on it because I wanted to be able to move around the paper to the perfect position I wanted even after I put it on the cover. Because if I use only double-sided tape, I cannot move around the paper anymore from the moment it touches the cover. And if I use glue stick alone only on the edges, the glue stick will make the paper a little bit wet and it'll make the paper edge stretches a little bit, which might lead to get some wrinkles on the edges or get some air bubble under the middle of the paper. So that's why I use double-sided tape and glue stick both. I hope this makes sense. So I pulled out a colored paper to cover the spine part. I recommend to use a thin paper because you don't want to bulk up the hinges, or you can use a thin fabric. It's gonna make the book more sturdy for sure. So I added a paper on the spine with PVA glue and double-sided tape, and I'm making sure it is well attached. Now I'm gonna add a label and a label holder on the cover. I'm looking for the right paper to make a label from the script box. I'm piercing holes with awls, making sure it is big enough for breads. I changed my mind. I decided to use vintage paper for the label. Then I put it aside to stamp the title later and started to work on the inside pages. So I pulled out tea dye papers, vintage papers, and vintage linen printable. Then what I did was connecting single vintage papers with washi tape. The tiny silver things are magnets because this craft mat is magnetic. It is very convenient when you need thin materials not to move on the mat. I love connecting papers with washi tapes because washi tapes have pretty patterns and colors which add more fun and interest to the pages. So this time I'm adding a single tea-dyed paper to a full sheet with washi tape. Washi tape is my favorite way to turn single pages into full pages. So now I'm cutting the paper to the size, and when the papers are wider than the cover, I usually fold the excess rather than cutting them out. This way I can have fold out pages, and I just like to have various sizes of pages. This is junk journal. The more eclectic, the more fun. So this is a pattern paper from October kit, linen from September kit. I folded it off center so each page has different sizes. This beautiful Art Nouveau floral is from Floral Frame Printable Kit number 5. And this is a vintage hanky from October Printable. The journal was quite tall, so folded it like this to make triangle pages. This is an envelope from the same printable. When there's a hanky in vintage linen printable, I always make sure to include an envelope design from it because hanky envelopes are so beautiful and fun to work with. I just scored the 4 flaps. You don't need to do this, but it definitely makes it easy to fold. So I'm gonna include it in the middle of signature, that's why I didn't glue it now. You'll see how to bind an envelope later in this video. This is another envelope. It is from Floral Printable. My printable always has these light gray outlines for off-white designs so you can see easily where to cut. So now I'm making signatures. I'm gonna make 2 signatures and they don't necessarily have to have the same number of pages. Actually, the only thing I care is usability and how they look. I want them to look not only harmonious but also balanced to use. So I mix the sizes and the types of papers so particular size or type of papers doesn't end up all together in one spot. I try to spread them. So you can see I debate with myself a lot on which paper to put next to each other. So I made signatures. Now I'm gonna make a template for binding. When I make a template, I always use a grid paper. I'm sorry the video was cut here, but what I did was cut the grid paper to the size of the spine so I can use it to pierce holes easily to the cover. And then as I'm showing you, I folded it in half to know exactly where is the center. And then I folded up both sides 2 times more so the other 4 sewing stations are equally distant from the center. Then I marked where to pierce the holes. Today I'm gonna use a 5-hole template stitch method for binding. So I have 2 lines of 5 spots. So I'm piercing holes to the cover using the template and on all. You can pierce from the inside as well. It's up to you. Just note that it changes how it looks depending on you pierce from the outside of the cover or the inside. So now I'm gonna prepare the signatures for binding. I fix the pages with bobby pins so they don't move. I use lots of bobby pins because my signatures had various sizes of papers, especially a small envelope in the middle. So you might notice already, but the more paper you include in one signature and the more diverse the sizes of papers, the more difficult the binding gets. So if you are a beginner, start with fewer pages in the same or rather similar sizes of papers. So again, I'm piercing the holes in the second signature with the help of the template as a guide. I keep all the binding templates I made because I can use them again when I make the same size journal. So I cut the thread a little longer than 2 times of the height of the spine and I started binding. As I said, I'm using 5-hole template stitch method. I'm using an off-white wax linen thread, but actually my original plan was using much thicker cotton thread that matches the cover color. So you will see in a minute me realizing this was not my original plan and freeze for a minute. And it's now. I pulled out all of my neutral colored cotton threads to find the right one for this cover and prepared two because I have two signatures to sew. You might notice, but I cut them almost 3 times of the height of the spine because this is on embroidery floss, loosely twisted 6-stranded thread, so it is trickier to bind with. So I prepared longer than I did with linen thread. This could be another little tip for beginners. Prepare a generous length of thread. If it is too thin, it can be difficult when you have to pull back the thread or make a knot. So I am making sure the thread is nice and tight before making a knot because you don't want your signatures to be loose. I made knots 2 times and I'm gonna bind the other signature. This is one of the things you can do with the excess of the binding thread. If the rest of the thread is long enough, you can make a little ribbon like this. And I am gonna finish the envelopes. It is simple, just add glue only on this flap. I wanted to cover the hinge with something pretty, so I added this beautiful floral white washi tape. It is anti-washi tape, so it sticks well, and by adding something thin and flexible, you can reinforce the hinges. Then I wanted to make a pocket on the inside cover. So I went through my scrap box again and found this paper scrap. Cut it to the size and added glue on 3 sides. Then I pulled out a memo paper which is included in my Vintage London November kit. I put it in the pocket. Now it's time to finish the label for the cover. I stamped memories on the vintage paper that I cut to the size earlier. Lastly, I checked all the pages if there's a problem. And that's it, the journal has finished. I'm showing you the final look. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how I made a journal from an old planner cover. I hope I explained well. I'll leave information of every materials and digital kits I mentioned in the description box below. And let me know in the comment if you have any questions. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!